Introducing the Italian Grape Geek program, a new and original approach to Italian wines. IGG, as it's fondly known, is a book, a podcast, an online theory course, and an in-person tasting course. Our pocket-sized book briefly introduces 80 grapes with benchmark producers, helping you find and taste these great wines on your own. Space to make your own notes makes the book a personal record of your Italian wine journey. No time to read? We've read the whole book out loud with added insights from Italian wine ambassadors. Listen for free on Italian Wine Podcast. Obsessed with Italian wine? Take the super accessible online theory course. Get certified as an Italian grape geek. Want more? Our international IGG educators have got your in-person tasting course to cap off your full IGG immersion. Go to mamajumboshrimp.com and sign up today.
I was like, I can handle this. And she was like, I need you to keep this clean. I want the floors clean. I want it organized. It is everyday California, about 2/3 of it. And then the back third was Europe and non-domestic wine. She was like, I need you to keep it clean, organized, and you need to inventory it 5 times a year. And I was like, yes, I got this. And I did not have it. But you just keep telling yourself, I got this, and I can do it. And I'm not going to let her down. I'm not going to let myself down.
Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. I'm Cynthia Chaplin, and this is Voices. Every Wednesday, I will be sharing conversations with international wine industry professionals, discussing issues in diversity, equity, and inclusion through their personal experiences working in the field of wine. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate our show wherever you get your pods. Hello, this is Cynthia Chaplin, and today I am super happy to have Sarah Looper on Voices with me. Sarah is the owner of Looper Somm, which I quite like, in New York, and she is a self-described vinfluencer, which I also like. So very good use of language at the moment. Through all of her social media and her classes and work as a sommelier, she is on a mission to end snobbery and intimidation, get them out of wine, and put the joy back in. So anybody who listens to me knows that I am very on board with this as a mission. Sarah wants to make people feel confident and empowered and have fun with wine. And I am 100% down for this. So thank you very much for coming on today, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Oh, it's a huge, huge, huge pleasure. I want to go back through sort of your backstory because it's a fun one. You know, you had this amazing experience of food in your childhood. That's clearly what sort of got you into where you are now. And the stories of you and all your siblings, I think you had 4 or 5 siblings.
I have 5 siblings, and we're all from the same mom and dad.
Well, I have 6 children, so I relate to this.
Oh my gosh.
I related to that a lot.
Wow.
Eating together as a family, cooking together as a family. And it's clear that you grew up in a household where food was really central to your family conversations. So how did that whole background around food propel you into wine?
This is such an interesting question because my mom, God bless her, was not apt in the culinary arts.
Mine either.
An exotic dinner was chicken not cooked all the way through and steamed broccoli.
Yeah, I think we lived in the same house.
So all 6 of us, we're all cooks now. We all know how to cook and or bake. And it was, it was kind of forced on us because our mom, our parents separated when we were young, and she was the director of admissions at the school where we all went. So she sometimes came home later than we did, so it was fend for yourselves and figure out what's good. And the first recipe I ever made, I don't know how I got it into my head, but it was bechamel. And
amazing. Good choice.
Excellent, right?
How old were you when you were making bechamel?
I think I was 8 or 9.
Oh my God.
And my older sister, Rachel, had received The Joy of Cooking, the cookbook, as a gift for her birthday. And if I was 8, she was 12. And she started baking when she was 11 or 12 years old. And I just, as a younger sister does, you take your older sister's stuff and you're like, what is this? and how can I ruin it, or how can I appropriate it and make it mine?
Exactly.
And I came across this bechamel and I was like, what is this magic? So I tried it out and I followed the directions, because I'm a rule follower and a direction follower, which I think is why baking pastry really, why I gravitated towards it. And I made it, and I was in the middle of basting the roux and the milk, the base, over the clove-studded onion with the bay leaf. My mind exploded. And I was like, this is unlike anything I've ever had in this house. And I was hooked. And we all took turns cooking. And then I started in restaurants when I was, I think, 16. I started waiting tables and bussing locally on Long Island. And then I just graduated to nicer restaurants in New York, and I was around better food. And I was like, wow, what have I been missing? And that's really how I got hooked into food, and ended up at culinary school years later, but for baking and pastry, not for savory.
Well, it's fascinating. I mean, I love the story. Similar, I'm in wine. My brother is a chef owner of a restaurant. Those of us who would have starved under our mother's cooking, tend to end up in a world filled with food and wine of our own volition. So it's kind of nice. I know that you went to Colorado for university, and then, as you said, you went to the Culinary Institute of America to do baking and pastry, which is kind of like, when I'm old, I would really like to do something like that. That's just for me. That sounds amazing. And you got a basic baking and pastry certificate there. And I know that time in your life was really fundamental to how you got into wine. So tell us the story.
So I got into wine through food, and I didn't go to the Culinary Institute of America thinking, oh, I'm going to go change this career and make it into wine. I did not think about that shift at all. I got into baking and pastry because I had pursued acting for 5 years or so. And it got to a point, I was booking stuff. I was working with an agent who would send me out, particularly for TV and film. I was doing a lot of stage work. And anytime I went out for film and TV, I would get callback after callback, but I would never book the job. And it got to a point where I was like, I'm tired of other people telling me when I can work. It's awful. And I was like, can I curse on this podcast?
Of course.
I was like, fuck that. I'm tired of letting other people control my destiny. So, and I always loved food. And at the time I was at Union Square Cafe. And the pastry chef there at the time was Deb Snyder, who, in my opinion, was she left cooking and is now a kindergarten teacher, I believe, but she was one of the top pastry chefs in Manhattan ever, period. I learned how to make the most incredible ice cream from her. And it's easy to F up ice cream and gelato. It's quite easy. And she was so patient and so incredible and so immensely talented, with flavor and layers of flavor, depth of flavor, taking classic combinations like bananas and peanut butter and elevating a dessert to something that was so beyond what you could imagine what bananas and peanut butter could be. And technique. And I worked with her. I started staging with her at Union Square Cafe while I was waiting tables. And I was like, wow, I really like this. Let me just go take a couple of culinary classes at ICE. So I did. And the next thing I knew, I was making cakes. The next thing I knew, I was doing chocolate work. And then the next thing I knew, I got a part-time job at Chocolat Moderne, which still exists. And this wonderful woman who's very talented herself, Joan Kukas, I begged her for a job, and she was like, I said, I'll work for free. I'm at ICE. This is what I'm doing. I think I want to go to culinary school. Do you have a spot for me making chocolates? Because I'm really interested in it. And she said, yeah, you can come scrape chocolate off the floor and buff my chocolate molds. And I was like, I'll do it. And I worked for free it was probably 3 months. And I was there several days a week and did not ask to be paid at all. And I was like, but she would not let me near the tempering machine. She was like, you can't do that yet. You can't make the praline. You can't make the ganache yet. Just, you can't. And then after I proved myself and showed up, and she was like, I'm going to let you start making ganache. I'm going to let you start tempering the chocolate. And this is how you do it. And she showed me. And then she was like, I kind of feel bad not paying you. How's $15 an hour? And I was like, I'll take it. So I started doing that. I was there for a year and a half. I ended up making the bonbons and bars, and it was awesome. And then I got into the Culinary Institute of America, and both Joan and Deb Snyder were like, I can teach you everything I know. Please don't leave. You're an awesome employee. And I was like, I really want to go to culinary school. I really want to make wedding cakes. And they were like, please don't do that. Please stay. And I ended up going, and I loved it. And because I had worked in so many excellent restaurants, Oceana, under Rick Moonen, and at Union Square Cafe, I worked at Gotham Bar and Grill. I had all these great experiences working with great chefs and great food and great wine. I thought I knew a lot about wine. So when I arrived at the Culinary Institute of America, the wine director there, Tracy Dutton, who is one of my favorite people on the face of this earth, I bugged her for months. And I was like, hey, I know so much about wine. I worked at all these great places. Why don't I work in the wine cellar? Because I wanted to work on campus, but not in the gift shop. Crickets. She would not answer me. I finally went out there to look for housing about 6 weeks before I started school. And I tracked her down. I was like, and then I tracked her down because I was basically chasing her around, like trying to find her. It was like, where's Waldo? And every office I went into, they were like, oh, Tracy just left. Tracy just left. And I was like, where the hell? And I didn't know what she looked like.
This is like relentless.
I was. I just so, it felt right. And I was like, what goes better with food than wine?
Too right.
So we were turning corners and we literally bumped into each other, and everyone at the CIA wears a name tag, and it read Tracy Dutton. And I was like, Tracy Dutton, I have been looking for you. And her eyes like, why have you been looking for me?
You crazy person.
Said,
take a step back.
Totally. And I was like, I'm Sarah Sutel. I'm the one who's been emailing you. And I really want to work in the wine purchasing department. And I just want to learn more about wine. I'm going to school and la. And I was like, and I figured I could work in the wine cellar during the day before I go to school at 1:00. Doesn't that sound great? And she was like, okay, sure. You can work in the wine cellar. Let me show you where you're going to work. And so she took me over. It was called The Cage. And it is this immense room that has cathedral ceilings. And it is stocked from the front of the chain link fence to the back with wine. It averaged 35,000 bottles.
Sounds like heaven.
And she said, now it does. Back then I was like, I can handle this. And she was like, I need you to keep this clean. I want the floors clean. I want it organized. It is everyday California, about 2/3 of it. And then the back third was Europe and non-domestic wine. She was like, I need you to keep it clean, organized, and you need to inventory it 5 times a year. And I was like, yes, I got this. And I did not have it. But you just keep telling yourself, I got this, and I can do it. And I'm not going to let her down. I'm not going to let myself down.
It's the old fake it till you make it situation.
Yeah, it was, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was make it till you make it. Make it happen until you've made it. And I was like, and that is exactly what I did. And I loved that job because I saw the back office end of purchasing, because it was the purchasing department for both food and wine. I learned how to receive, because receiving, a lot of people don't even realize this, receiving wine, receiving product is a huge part of maintaining an organized and profitable program. So I learned how to receive. She started sending me home with wine. And she was like, just take this home, take some tasting notes, and we're going to talk about it when I next see you, which was usually the next day. And I started to get really nervous. And what am I going to say? And I don't know how to describe wine, but I know how to describe food. So I just started applying food descriptors to the wine, and we talked about it. And we only took 5 minutes the beginning of the day before I jumped into computer work or, grunt work or sweeping, breaking down boxes. And her last question was always, was it delicious to you? And I was like, it really drove home for me. That's what's most important. Is it delicious to me? Because everyone's palate is different.
And at the end of the day, wine has to be good. People have to like it. It's a very, seems like a simple concept, but I think we've forgotten about that sometimes.
We have. There was I don't know if they still do it. My guess is yes. There is an event that the CIA has every year that if I'm remembering correctly, raises money, and they taste Pinot Noir from around the world, or at least it was that year. It was Pinot Noir, and we were sent a 3-pack of DRC, and I remember there was La Tâche in it, and I forget the 2 other bottlings. But after the tasting event, there was some DRC La Tâche left over, and Tracy gave me, it was a 750 bottle, and there was maybe 2 fingers worth in the bottom of the bottle. And she said, why don't we taste this together? So we tasted it together, and I knew that there was something different about it, but I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. It was also a very, very young vintage. So if I was there in 2005, it might have been, I don't know, 01, 02, something like that. And she was like, what do you think of this wine? And I was like, I can't really wrap my head around it. But she goes, this is the top of the top. Remember this. And you just remember these moments where you have these aha, like, oh my God, this is what wine is supposed to taste like. This is what great wine should taste like. And
this is what it should do to your soul, actually.
Yeah. And actually that wine for me was not that La Tâche. It was a Gaia Sori Tildine, I think. When I was
one of my
delicious.
Good choice. One of my all-time favorite.
And I forget the vintage.
Another
It was
mind-blowing wine.
Yeah, there's a reason why the wines are so expensive and hard to come by. And that was even before I started in culinary school. That was when I was still at Lever House working with Deb Snyder. We worked together again at Lever House after Union Square Cafe. And it was right before I went to culinary school, and the wine director there, another woman, Mariah Bodie, she was like, Sarah, you like food, you like wine, here, taste this. A customer didn't finish it. And it blew my mind. That was when I also think I discovered I had synesthesia, because I felt this expansion in my mind that was just, it felt limitless. And I was like, what is this?
Well, you're so lucky too. It's so nice to hear you talking about all of these women mentors that you had, which is, not that usual, in the time, you and I, our sort of timings more or less collide. And there weren't that many women around, and it seems like you found all the good ones, which clearly made a huge impact, and the generosity that they showed you. So I love that you had lots of female mentors. I think it's super important. So I have to say that, I've read your bio, and you went on after the Culinary Institute to have almost every single job you can possibly have in wine. It made me laugh reading it. You've been, a floor somm, a wine director, a writer, an importer, distributor, a retailer, a wine educator, everything. So, out of all those jobs, which one was your favorite?
I don't know if I can place a favorite tag on any one of them, but I can tell you I really, really love where I am now. I really love that it feels like I'm at a point in my life where there's a confluence of confidence, of practice, of education, of seeing all the different sides of wine. And I wanted that. I pursued all those different avenues because I wanted to understand the business. I think one of the things I haven't done yet is shipping, which I would love to get into, but I saw The Wire. You can't easily get into shipping, but I'm so grateful that I'm at this moment where I can share through Lupersom and also on the floor at Il Buco what a wine really is. And it is an agricultural product. It will go bad if you let it. It will run out. It will also change your life.
Yeah, and it will sustain you. It is, it is
Yeah.
something that will sustain you. So I love this. I love where this conversation is going so much. So let's talk about wine education just for a second in there, because you've got a WSET diploma and you're certified educator. And I am certified educator with WSET as well. And you are right at the tippy top now of Court of Master of Sommelier. So a lot of wine education under the bridge, which I get. I have the same. So, there's a lot of problems with wine education. Most of it was invented by men with very rigid language. Most of it costs way too much money, very prohibitive. So there's a big discussion in the industry now, especially among us educators, about how relevant is formal wine education these days. And we're allowed to say what we want because we are both formal wine educators, but we are both looking at a new perspective, which I want to get to. But how do you feel about formal wine education today? Still relevant or no?
I think that it is, but it's not for everybody. You can also, but that's also like, if you notice on Lupersom, I don't say everyone needs to go get an education in wine. Everyone should have at least the certified level 2 from WSET or the Court of Master Sommeliers if you want to know wine. I do not believe in that. I know so many people who do not have a formal education in wine, who have never taken a class, who speak about wine from their soul because they know it, because they love it. Again, going back to the rule following, I love rules. I love education. I think about going after my MW. I woke up at 4 a.m. a couple of weeks ago to listen to a webinar that a couple of MWs were putting on. Like, this is what you expect, and this is how much it will cost, and I was like, and I got off the webinar, and I immediately texted my diploma buddy, and I was like, Emily, should we go after the MW? I kind of want to see if I can just get into the program. And she said, that's not where I am right now. I'm really happy where I am. And she's in wine acquisition at an auction house.
Yeah, this is a really good point that you make. I like how you put it that formal wine education is great, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody needs it. Not everybody wants it, and you certainly don't have to have it to talk about wine and enjoy wine. So I think we will always have a place for it. I hope so. But I think things are changing a lot too. And you've got this very engaging, sort of non-judgmental, very inclusive and welcoming approach to teaching and talking about wine. I'm sharing it with you now. So you started Vino Vocab, and this I really want to talk about when you were working at the Astor Center. So tell us about Vino Vocab and what gave you the idea, and when did it start? How long has it been going? What have you been doing with it?
This is a great question. I do want to put in here, and you can take this out if you want, but I'm so interested in your story also, Cynthia. I want to know why you have pursued so many certifications and diplomas too, as a woman and as a wine lover. And we don't have to answer that now. We can, unless you want to.
When I press the record
Okay,
off, then we can talk
fair
about
enough.
that. But yeah, tell me about Vino Vocab, because this appeals to me. As I said, both of us are wine educators in very many ways. In a formal classroom, on the floor, in master classes. I am educating people in wine every day, my own friends and family, just in conversations we have, and all the way up to my WSET students and everybody in between. So tell me about Vino Vocab, because it's a very cool idea.
So I was thinking about this, and I realized that it really started when I was at the Culinary Institute of America. There were classes that were being put on all the time for food and for wine. And one of the deals I had with Tracy was that if I worked the event or class for no money, I could sit in on the class. So of course, I'll wash dishes, I'll clean up after people. I have no problem with that. If I get free education, absolutely. There was this one class, and I forget who taught it. It was a guy who was a food scientist, and he was teaching a class on food and wine pairing. And there were different styles of wine: high acid, bone dry. Another example that had, I don't know, maybe 25 grams of residual sugar to it, so it was off dry. And then a red wine, let's say, that had tons of extraction, high oak, high tannin, high alcohol. And then he had different foods in front of us. Some were salty, some were sweet, some were umami. And we would cross the streams and taste what works, what doesn't, why doesn't it work, why does it work. And that's just brewed, percolated in the back of my mind for years. And it was actually at Wine and Spirits magazine. It was after I had been in restaurants for a long time. And my younger sister, Judy, in the summer times, would work at a restaurant in Martha's Vineyard. And I had been dabbling with Vino Vocab, like just altering the wine, adjusting the wine, acidulating it, adding sugar to it. And she said, I know you've been working on this thing. Do you think you could teach that class for my team? Because we don't have a wine director. The owner buys the wine and no one really knows about wine. Could you do that? So I did that. And I was like, oh my God, this actually really works. And I was given the opportunity to teach it at Astor Center. And it was a very different iteration back then. And I think that was 2018 when I started to teach it at Astor Center. And it just, every single time I taught it, it just grew and changed. And that was because of the questions I was getting from the students. And it really became what it is today because of the questions that students were asking. And if you listen well enough, and this goes for any wine educator, any sommelier, any wine retailer, if you listen to the questions and answer that question, you will crack open something in that learner that never existed before. And it was something I've learned. And I'd love to hear your take on this. If you, as an educator, if you get one question from a student, I've learned that at least one other person in that group has that same exact question, but hasn't asked it yet or is afraid to ask it.
Absolutely. I start all of my classes. I don't care if it's young students on their semester abroad or industry professionals who've been in the wine industry sector for 25 years. I start every class with, this is a safe space. There is no judging. There is no such thing as a stupid question. The only stupid thing you can do is waste your money by not asking me what you want to know, because you are paying me to be here. I'm going to
Oh my God, exactly the same. I say exactly the same things.
Yeah, so I think it is that wonderful light bulb moment where you see somebody, really get it. That is what keeps us all teaching, or it is for me anyway. And it can be over the smallest thing. So this is why I'm so interested in what you're doing. One of the things that always makes me smile, okay, I'm going to say this out loud. This is terrible. I hate teaching WSET level 1. I hate it. It's boring for me. It's often boring for people in the room. So I live in Verona in Italy, so everyone is sort of one step away from wine. Most of them are doing it to practice English for wine business. But the one good thing in that class is the session where we do 6 different types of food with 6 different wines, and there's a grid, and you taste each item of food with each wine. And of course, there's always shocking results. People don't realize acid and acid goes really well together. Take a German Riesling and put it with a wedge of lemon, and people are just blown away. So that is the one thing that I really love and adore about level 1, because it takes people outside of themselves and makes them see that food and wine pairing is so personal. You can do whatever you want, and this is a playground, people. We should all be pairing wine and food all the time. It's super fun.
I totally agree. And in Vino Vocab, I manipulate the wine. I use the same wine. It's a cheap ass Pinot Grigio. And I pour it out into 6 different glasses. And the first one, I don't do anything to. And then to the second glass of the same Pinot Grigio, I add a little bit of tartaric acid or lemon juice. And then to the sugared example, to demonstrate elevated sugar or off dry, all I do is add some Domino sugar, and so on and so forth. So it's the same baseline, it's the same foundational element, but I isolate and amplify that particular structural element so people have that aha moment and go, oh my God. And then some people, I find that the people who drink a little coffee with their sugar in the morning, my sugar sample, they're like, oh, this is not sweet to me at all. But the people who drink their coffee black and like bitter things, they go, oh my God, this is so sweet. But in the range of dry to off dry, it's maybe off dry, in the range of dry to sweet, the sample is only off dry. So again, it goes back to what you were saying, depends on their palate. And once they understand the mechanics of the structure of wine, then they can go, oh, well, this isn't so sweet to me, so maybe I can go a little bit sweeter, and that'll be really nice with my spicy Thai.
Exactly. And it brings it home in a really personal way. It doesn't. I work with a lot of wineries in Italy too, and doing a lot of writing up of notes and things for their websites. And I have spent the past 5 years of my life saying, people, you have to stop saying this red wine goes really well with wild boar ragu, because nobody eats wild boar ragu anymore except you. So people eat different things, and Italian wine in particular, but lots of other wines go with many international cuisines, and that is the joy of what we do. So this is why I fell in love with your Vino Vocab idea, but I also fell in love with your social media, which is very cool. Loopersom is super fun. Your website has, instead of an actual picture of you, it's a cartoon, like little avatar thing, which I really liked. And you are super popular. You've got over 70,000 followers on Instagram alone. I don't even know how many people are following you on TikTok. So you come up with these great ideas. You've got Bodega Wine Mondays, basic Blash wine pairings. You've got your sister's shitty wine cellar, which I really love. So how important do you think social media is for engaging with new and young consumers in wine? We all know that people are drinking less wine. So what advice do you have for all the naysayers in the world right now who say no young people want to drink wine? How can we engage with them?
First, I think they're wrong. I think the people who say nobody who's a millennial or Gen Z, nobody wants to drink wine. And I feel like that is a hasty generalization. If no one wanted to drink wine, then they wouldn't be following me and other influencers. They wouldn't. I can't even tell you. On TikTok, 2/3 of my followership is under the age of 30. And if you're sitting there telling me young people don't want to drink wine, I call flag on the play. That's untrue. Absolutely. I think that social media is really important with not just community, because that is exactly what I'm trying to build, but also to reach people. Wine is so freaking snobby sometimes, and it is condescending, and it's insular. It's
And
not
pretentious.
It's absolutely. It's not particularly welcoming. And there are certainly people I know who will say things like, oh, that customer, they don't really know a lot about wine, so they don't deserve the Decem. They don't deserve the Monfortino. And I'm like,
Oh dear.
get off your high horse, because everyone needs to know where the top is. Everyone should know. And if you can't afford it, make friends with people who collect wine, because people who collect wine share their wine. And that is part of the joy of wine. It is community, it is connection. And there is a lot less connection, I'd say, these days because of the interwebs and social media, but it can also be used as a tool to make connection. And that is exactly what I'm trying to do. And to de-snobify it, make it fun, make it funny. And one of the best ways to get people relaxed is to make them laugh. And if I can make them laugh, then I can come at them with some really hard, fun facts.
Yeah,
And it'll stick.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're on the money there. People are scrolling, but some people are scrolling for things that are actually, really something they want to make part of their lives, and wine is one of those things. So, um, I want to ask you, you've been in the wine industry like me over 25 years. What's the biggest change that you think you've seen in the wine industry, and what would you like to see happen in the next couple of years? When I meet up with you in New York in the next couple of years, what would you like to have see happen?
This is such a great question. I think one of the biggest changes I've seen and that I would like to see change is the commodification of wine.
Interesting.
It's not just like, we're facing things like climate change, and we're facing things like tariffs, and tariffs hurt the importer. And a lot of Americans don't understand that.
Tariffs hurt everyone.
And it trickles down.
Yeah.
And it's not that American wineries are absolved of that responsibility. They have to buy French wood. They have to buy Portuguese corks and the glass from some other country and American wines can also suffer from what we think some people think of as European tariffs or non-American tariffs. And then your domestic wine goes up, and then your price goes up, and you're like, why is that going up? And it's because it just affects everybody. Anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. But the commodification of wine, and I think that there is a shift happening in that also. There's an undercurrent of change, and there are people who still say, "Oh, wine is it's Pinot Grigio, and it's just meant it gets me drunk, and I'll drink that dusty bottle of Bogle Merlot on the bottom shelf, and it's fine." But there is beauty, and there are stories, and there are people, and land, and history behind every single bottle of wine, and a lot of people.
I live in Italy. You're singing to the choir.
Oh my gosh, totally. And one of my greatest joys is to represent that winery, that winemaker, when I am at the table or teaching Vino Vocab and saying, this is who this person is. This is how long they've been farming the land. This is how long their name has been in the history books in their municipality. There are families who depend on whether or not we sell their wine. And it is a joy and a privilege and an honor to be able to do that for another family, for another human being. And through that, there is deeper connection. Not only me to the winemaker, to the place, but me to the person who's drinking it, the person who's drinking it to that wine, to that producer. Maybe it'll inspire them to take a trip to Valtellina and go see Marco Fai. Maybe it will inspire them to go to Etna and go check out, who is Salvo Fotti. All I've heard of is, Benanti, which is a great winery also, but maybe seek out smaller producers. I see me and my role as Looper Som and as Sarah Looper, the sommelier, as a matchmaker. And I want to connect people to place to wine and just
I agree with
make the
this
world
so
smaller,
much.
but also larger.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of my saddest things in life is, whenever all the reports come out of the wine auctions every year, and you just think all that wine, which has been bought by someone on the other side of the world, is never going to leave that auction house. It's never going to come out of the cellar. It's going to sit there. They're never going to smell it or taste it or feel it or pour it or listen to it or anything. As you said, it's become a commodity. And I hope, like you do, that we will see less and less of that. Uh, Storytelling, the way that you just did it, is also the way that I do it. And I think that is going back to the idea of community. That's the way we create community. We bring people around a table, we give them some food, we pour them some wine, and we all start telling stories. In my case, my stories are about wine. So I think we've come really 360 on this conversation, and I really love that. So thank you so much for this. I've enjoyed it so much today. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Cynthia. This was such a treat and such an honor to be on your podcast. Thank you so much.
It is a pleasure.
Thank you for listening, and remember to tune in next Wednesday when I'll be chatting with another fascinating guest. Italian Wine Podcast is among the leading wine podcasts in the world and the only one with a daily show. Tune in every day and discover all our different shows. You can find us at ItalianWinePodcast.com, SoundCloud, Spotify, Himalaya, or wherever you get your pods.